Bread, Episode 5. I'm Barry.
I'm Jeff.
And we're here to talk about sandwiches and the sandwich adjacent.
Sandwiches.
I love me some sandwiches. Hey, Jeff.
What?
What you been eating?
Well, I went to a place called Urbane Cafe, and I had their Chimichurri steak sandwich.
Ooh.
It was a very tasty sandwich. So it is tri-tip steak, house-made chimichurri sauce, feta cheese, arugula, and a cranberry chutney aioli.
Cranberry chutney aioli.
The aioli was the only thing that gave me pause because I was like, well, I mean, everything else I've had before on a sandwich, but it was actually very, very good. And one of the things I did like is that their standard side that comes with the sandwich is a little tossed green salad with balsamic vinaigrette, which I actually think paired really well with the sandwich. Because, I get chips. Most of the time I get, chips or, sometimes you'll get, a pasta salad or something.
Yeah.
But, try to add some healthy in there, even though, there's arugula on the sandwich,
How
which
much
I love.
like cranberry sauce did the chutney taste like?
No, it literally just gave it, a hint of sweet and tart, not too overpowering. So I thought it was a good compliment without being the focus. Obviously the chimichurri and the steak were the focus of this particular sandwich.
Yeah.
So, and it was good chimichurri because I've had some bad chimichurri before, and it's pretty easy to screw up chimichurri. A friend of mine who is from Argentina, and their family makes chimichurri a couple times a year, basically for their whole family. He's like, I let my brother do it because he's the best at it. Because I've screwed it up before, and all it takes is just, you put a little too much of this in or not enough of that in there, and he said his brother makes it perfect every time. And I was like, okay.
And you got to watch the ones you get in a jar.
Yes.
They're real easy to get a bad one.
I got one at Smith's one time, and I was excited because it was the only chimichurri I saw on the shelf, and I just happened to be walking past the sauce aisle, and I was like, oh, chimichurri. So I bought some, and it was terrible.
I think that's the one that I brought, and you're like, oh, yeah, you don't want to eat that one. It wasn't any good.
Way too sweet. Chimichurri should not be sweet.
No.
It should have a little bit of that that vinegary, that's not sour, but, gives you, makes your taste buds tingle a little. Or in the back of your throat.
Not so much like smelling pickle juice,
yes.
but something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you need that herby flavor, too.
Oh, absolutely.
There is a chimichurri steak and bacon sandwich, as we were talking about earlier, from Mendocino Farms. I love this place. I can't get it out here. It's a California chain, but there's one in Texas. They make this thing. It's roasted carved steak and applewood smoked bacon on marinated red peppers, caramelized onion jam, chimichurri, shredded romaine, herb aioli, on a toasted sesame roll.
I was going to say, everything on that list are some of my favorite things to have on a sandwich.
You have me at aioli
most
of the time, and it's always something weird. Aioli's like grown-up mayonnaise, but it's not even mayonnaise. It's something else.
Its base is very similar to mayonnaise, but, in fact, dirty little secret from a lot of chefs buy bulk mayonnaise and then add stuff to it and call it an aioli.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I've learned from working in the restaurant biz for so long.
Technically, aioli is garlic and olive oil.
Yes.
And mayo is egg yolks and canola oil. But they're very similar.
Yeah.
But you could add a lot more stuff to aioli, and I think it's a little healthier.
It depends.
Is that canola oil,
Like I said, it depends on how far the chef wants to go because, when you're serving a lot of people in a day, it's easier to just buy the mayonnaise, add the extra garlic in there, and then, whatever other ingredients you do in your own, quote, house aioli.
Well, when I'm making chicken sandwiches at home,
right,
I'm not going to sit there and whip up an aioli
because
I don't have the time for that. Now, what I'll do is I'll take mayo, and I'll add garlic, and I'll add a little bit of olive oil and some herbs, and I'll even add mustard.
Okay, yeah.
And capers.
Depending on what...
I'm halfway to a remoulade at that point.
And depending on what type... from experience, I know if you use a powdered mustard, in your mayonnaise, it doesn't thin it out as much and gives you a little bit better flavor, but you do have to kind of let it sit overnight if you're making your own aioli out of mayonnaise.
This is just when I'm whipping it with something up
if
quick,
you're just like quick.
and then just slap it on the bun with the chicken and the lettuce and tomatoes and the whole business like that. Yeah, and honestly, it becomes more of a remoulade at that point.
Yeah, there you go.
I am harkening back to the days of Star Trek: The Experience. Take a drink, everybody, for playing at home. They had this mustard caper remoulade there. I fell in love with.
That thing was so good.
So good.
We had this chicken sandwich that had mustard caper remoulade on it, and it was on ciabatta bread, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. No, it wasn't ciabatta.
Was it ciabatta?
No, it was something else. Maybe. I don't know.
I'll have to go back and look at the menu. I have one of the menus at home. I'll have to look at it.
I could be wrong.
It was a grilled chicken sandwich, and holy shit, that mustard caper remoulade was fantastic.
Yeah, I remember going in the back saying, "How do I make this at home?" And then he showed me he got a bit of it out of a jar.
Yeah, I mean, you get like They made it with like that really nice, chunky, seedy deli mustard.
Yeah, that's the good stuff.
And then, you add the capers in, and then, they have the big industrial blender where they just put it in there and blend the shit out of it. But the key, from what I remember, was our chef telling us that it's got to sit like overnight. So we were always making it for the next day because you want time for those flavors to really, mix together.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're whipping up something quick, it'll taste okay, but if you really want all your flavors to just punch you in the mouth, you definitely want to let it sit overnight.
Yeah, love me an aioli. I haven't recorded in a bit, and I haven't really talked about what we ate in Texas for Mike's wedding. We went. Jeff and I went out to San Antonio and Dripping Springs, barbecue country.
Yep.
And I had myself a brisket sandwich.
Yes, you did.
Now, normally I just like brisket by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Dip it in some sauce or don't, whatever.
Sure.
But, when in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Of course.
And so I slapped it on 2 pieces of white bread.
Yep.
With pickles and onions and a healthy helping of barbecue sauce.
Was it the pickled onions or was it just the regular onions?
No, it was just pickles and onions. I wish
pickled onions. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Yeah. If I had like the red onions pickled.
The pickled red onions. Those are the best.
Those are absolutely the best. No, I just used what was there.
Mm-hmm.
We went to like Rudy's and we went to Salt Lick. Totally different barbecue sauces.
Yeah.
For some reason, we did not have the best time at Rudy's because there's apparently 2 different kinds of Rudy's.
Yeah, the one that we went to was supposed to be like, quote, the original or something like that.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the selection of the ones that you had been to.
And I couldn't get a Shiner, and that pissed me off.
Yeah, well.
Good Shiner beer.
They were out that day, apparently.
Whatever. But as a sandwich goes, I think I'm happier eating it outside of the bread.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I'm happier with a barbecue sandwich not affiliated with bread, unless it's designed to specifically be a barbecue sandwich.
I mean, you're better off with an actual sandwich roll if you're going to use barbecue on it, because barbecue in general, especially brisket's going to tend to be a wetter type of meat.
Oh, and the white bread just falls the fuck apart.
Yeah, it dissolves.
Yeah. In Texas, that's what they give you. They give you some slices of bread, and you go to town, do whatever you want to do. Now, if you want a good barbecue sandwich that's going to come on like a soft roll, I prefer a pulled pork sandwich. Or you could do a Hawaiian roll for that if you're feeling sweet.
We had a good brisket sandwich at Memphis Barbecue when I worked there, and that was the sliced brisket on the sandwich, of course, piled pretty high.
Yeah.
But we had the vinegar slaw. So the vinegar slaw on top, and then Mike's big thing was like the brisket needs to stand on its own. So you put a dust of his magic dust, which was his dry rub, a dust of that, and then just a little ribbon of barbecue sauce on top. It's like if the guests want to put more on, that's on them. But the brisket should really stand out, and then because you've already got all these flavors going together. You got the natural taste of the smoked brisket. You've got the barbecue sauce. and then that dry rub.
You want to be able to taste the wood, too.
Yes.
I like the idea of just a little drizzle of barbecue sauce.
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
that's what I did when I got to Rudy's. I put the barbecue sauce on the table, basically on the wax paper, and then you dip it a little bit. But I'm still getting plenty of wood and meat flavor. That's
Sure.
what you want. I'm not. It's real easy to screw up a sandwich with too much barbecue sauce.
Yes.
Now that said, pulled pork, you kind of have to mix the barbecue in with it.
Because pulled pork will dry out very quickly.
Yeah. Here's a trick. If you don't want to sit there and smoke a pulled pork forever, and it's just eating for like 2, you grab a piece of pork shoulder. You cut a bunch of onions, throw them in the crock pot, throw the pork butt in there. Let it cook for like the 6-8 hours, whatever it takes to shred it to pieces. And then you pour barbecue sauce on it, mix it up, and you just let it sit there for a little longer. You got it. That's it. That's all you need to do. And it's delicious.
Yeah.
Not fancy. You don't really need any seasonings for it. I mean, you can rub seasoning on it.
I mean, it's like barbecue adjacent at that point, but it's good enough for most people.
Yeah. And it's good if you're just, I got this piece of pork. I'm at home. I might as well eat it.
Frankly, most people don't have 18 to 20 hours to smoke a brisket or smoke a pork shoulder.
Oh God, I mentioned to an ex-boss of mine that I like to smoke brisket, and he's like, "Well, when are you going to smoke us a brisket?" I worked at that place from like 8 in the morning to 5 p.m. Am I supposed to get up at midnight and smoke the whole office of brisket and then work? No, dude. Not happening.
It's amazing how long that takes. Good Lord.
12 hours, 225 to 250.
I was going to say 12 is like the minimum.
And then,
because I watched a lot of barbecue competition stuff, not to mention when I talked to Mike Mills, who was a barbecue champion. Just like, he's like, some of these guys, they'll smoke at 20 plus hours, and then of course they're adjusting the heat all the time. And I'm like, how do they sleep?
You don't. When I had an old school stick burner, the one you have now, I would adjust the heat every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And you set an alarm. So you sleep and you wake up, sleep, wake up. Now, some people say, well, pellet burner is not the way to do it. That's not real barbecue. Well, I've done my time on a stick burner. I think I'd like to try a pellet now. Our friend Lewis has a pellet burner, and his wife just puts the brisket in the Traeger, sets it, and literally forgets about it for 12 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it's
constantly 225, 250, whatever you want. Nice.
I don't like pellet burgers. I don't like pellet burners mostly because in the early days of that design, it was getting jammed all the time, so you weren't getting the requisite amount of smoke.
Nowadays,
what I do like is a lot of them having a little electric fan built in that kicks on and off to make sure that the temperature stays steady. So it's fanning the flame or not fanning the flame enough so that you get your right amount of smoke and it keeps the temperature consistent.
You can buy those flames as aftermarket stuff for the stick burners as well.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not perfect because you still got to feed the fire.
Yeah.
You still got to make sure the chunks are big enough or small enough, make sure the fire doesn't go out, or it's just a whole pain in the ass. I have done plenty of those. I have stayed up all 12 hours. I've done the Texas crutch, which, by the way, kids, you really should do, because when I know this just devolved into barbecue cast, but whatever. It was bound to happen.
Yeah, anything you put on a piece of bread, though,
that counts. The Texas crutch is about a couple hours before before that 12-hour mark hits. You want to take the thing off the heat, wrap it in like butcher paper, or if you can't, then foil's fine. But I prefer butcher paper. Put it back in. Or better yet, what I used to do is I used to wrap it in foil, then wrap it in a towel, then wrap it in another towel, and then put it in a Yeti cooler.
Okay.
And let it sit for 2 hours. It's still cooking. It breaks that stall where it can't that thing can't get over a certain temperature, and then the temperature rises, and it's still cooking. It's great because I made a brisket, wrapped it, put it in the cooler, drove an hour to a friend's house for a 4th of July party, and they're like, "Hey, I got the brisket."
Nice.
And it's still cooking. I take it out. It's piping hot, juicy as hell. That was the star of the party. It was nice. It was nice.
Very nice.
Yeah. Enough about brisket.
Yes.
Let's talk about cheesesteaks.
I love a good cheesesteak.
We just had cheesesteaks as
Yes,
a
we
pre-show
did.
sandwich. We went to Capriotti's. Now, kids, if you're not familiar with Capriotti's, first off, your life is wrong. Capriotti's is really good. They got locations all over the place, and they make all their sandwiches fresh there. And they have a great cheesesteak. Now, they didn't always have a Wagyu cheesesteak.
Yes.
But it's a relatively new thing the last few years.
Only a couple. It's at least a couple years now, if maybe not 3. But they introduced their American Wagyu to their menu. They also have an American Wagyu roast beef sandwich that's pretty tasty as well. But we did the cheesesteak. Their classic cheesesteak is choice of beef, so you get either the regular chop steak or the American Wagyu chop steak. American cheese, but they do with the white American cheese, which is supposed to have a little bit more flavor to it than the yellow American. I couldn't really tell the difference, but hey, that's just me. And then it comes with sautéed mushrooms and sautéed onions. Now, I was talked into many years ago when I went to Capriotti's to get my first cheesesteak at that particular. I'd had cheesesteaks before, but the gentleman at the counter recommended I get grilled sweet and hot peppers on it.
That's how I got mine.
And holy shit, is it good.
It's super good.
And, that American Wagyu just, I think you could said it had a more beefy flavor to it.
A little bit of a more beefy umami flavor to it
Yeah.
than the regular. The classic's nothing to sneeze
Yeah,
at.
exactly. But for whatever reason, that American Wagyu is just so much better. And I didn't believe it because I tried it, and I'm like, it can't be that much better. So I went back and tried the classic cheesesteak again, and I was like, okay, there is an actual flavor difference here. I'm not just imagining this.
Nope. It's for real. Now, before we devolve into cheesesteak talk, we need to mention a couple things about Capriotti's. First off, Capriotti's, one of their first locations was here in Vegas. Now, they started in Delaware, and they had a couple locations in Delaware, and then the first restaurant location in Vegas was open in '93.
Okay.
Up on Sahara. And in 2008, I think it was, we were doing the Ugly Couch Show, and we did an episode of the show where we just sat there and did nothing but eat the Bobby. Now let's talk about the Bobby.
That's
Bobby is their signature sandwich.
Yep.
Voted the greatest sandwich in America by AOL.com, but whatever. Pulled turkey, cranberry sauce, stuffing, and mayo. It's a Thanksgiving sandwich.
Yes.
It's delicious. Don't get the hot Bobby.
I liked the hot Bobby.
I didn't like the hot Bobby. But anyway, so that's Capriotti's. But for cheesesteaks, we were going to get to this episode eventually.
Yeah.
I'm glad we were getting it away.
We've flirted with it a couple of times and then decided to wait, but now we've decided not to wait any longer.
Yeah, we had a couple cheesesteaks for lunch, and now we just went down a rabbit hole, and here we are. You had the history of cheesesteaks.
This comes from Philadelphia Magazine, so
From
Philadelphia, so credit there. The article is the oral history of the cheesesteak. What this article does is interview the grandson of one of the two guys that started the cheesesteak in Philadelphia. Now, bearing in mind, they didn't create the steak sandwich. The sandwich itself, originally called the beefsteak, dates back to the 19th century. There's a lot of cookbooks that have recipes for this. What the Oliveris did in the 1930s was put it on a different bread that was on a hoagie roll, because basically they had a hot dog stand, and they put this steak on that hot dog roll with some cheese, chopped it up, etc., and, kind of really the rest is history. But the original beefsteak sandwich was on different bread, different seasonings, so that's what makes the Philadelphia cheesesteak different than these older steak sandwiches that you have.
Now, the Oliveri family, they're the ones that own Pat's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Pat Oliveri was one of the two brothers that started the original cheesesteak in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia version as we know it today. It's kind of controversial about what type of cheese you would typically put on a cheesesteak. The original cheeses were American and provolone.
Because whiz wasn't a thing back then.
Cheese whiz, didn't get developed until I believe the 1940s, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I actually read it in the article and I lost my place, so I know about the but. So they had already started these sandwiches in the 1930s before Cheese Whiz came along. So Cheese Whiz was adopted as a part of that sandwich history in Philadelphia.
Well, it's worth mentioning Pat's
Yes.
and Geno's.
Geno's was apparently across town, I think, according to this article, because Pat's was in South Philly, and then there was also Jim's Steaks, which is in West Philly, and then I can't remember what part of town was where you're talking about.
Well, Pat's and Geno's, that spot
Geno's.
where they're facing each other,
Yeah.
that's on Passyunk Avenue. Pat's obviously, they opened in 1930, and Geno's opened across the street in
Right.
66. Now, one of them, I can't remember which one has the uncut slabs, and the one of them chops the ribeye. I can't remember which is which. Go there and figure it out. But if you go to the Philly airport and you have a cheesesteak, chances are you're going to have a Geno's. I had a Geno's cheesesteak in the airport there, and they offer it all the ways. What pisses some people off is how these write these menus. What do you want? You want a steak sandwich? You want a cheesesteak, an extra cheese, a pizza steak, a mushroom cheesesteak, a mushroom pizza steak, pepper steak, pepper cheese. But come on, just list the ingredients and tell me what you want. There's a place up the street from me here called the Straight Out of Philly, and they do that same thing. And I'm like, look, here's what I want. I want a steak. I want peppers, mushrooms, onions, and I want like provolone. And he's like, all right, fine. You could order it however you want. It's just a little aggravating.
Yeah, I guess peppers and mushrooms were not a part of the original. It was just the steak, cheese, and onions. Was from according to this, according to the guy's grandson here.
And then, to add fuel to it.
Right.
In New England, cheesesteak with peppers, onion, and mushrooms is called a steak bomb.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's something different everywhere you go. And then there's the thing about whiz.
Yes.
Dude.
I've tried one with the Cheese Whiz. I was not a fan.
Not a fan.
And, I mean, as I've gotten older, I noticed that I don't like Cheese Whiz as much as I did when I was a kid.
It doesn't melt right. It doesn't. It breaks.
It doesn't do anything
it doesn't
right.
Do anything right.
It's for squirting on a cracker when you're a kid because it's something that parents can easily get their kids to snack on while they're making dinner or whatever.
Because it comes out of a can like whipped cream.
Exactly.
American cheese, you got to be in the mood for it. It melts nicely, doesn't crack, but it doesn't have the flavor that provolone does.
Exactly.
And I think Italian when I think cheesesteak.
Right. Well, I mean, but there is the Italian cheesesteak, which is a completely different version of the cheesesteak, but that's getting into a whole nother realm because that's talking about whether it's a classic Italian with or without marinara and yada yada yada. I mean, the list of toppings goes on and on.
Well, everyone has this claim to fame. Oh, we're the first to do this. No, who does it best? And what makes it best? Do you carve out the bread? Which you really should do, otherwise it's going to be too bready. And that's a problem I have with a lot of cheesesteaks I have, is it's too bready because they don't carve out the bread a little bit.
Right.
Did Capriati's carve out the bread? I don't think they did.
I don't think they do, but I think they bake their sandwich bread in such a way that once they slice it and open it up, it's not as
bready,
as
yeasty. It's like airy, and
it'll airy,
soak
but
up the ingredients. And it'll come together. Yeah. There's Campo's. It's right. It's on Market Street, right down the street from the Bell and Independence Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been around since '47. Now they make them with high-end ribeye cut against the grain. It's real nice. I just saw a thing. A chef, one of the chefs I watch on YouTube, went to John's Roast Pork.
Okay.
That's from the 30s as well. That's in South Philly, and they hollow out the seeded roll with no whiz. No whiz, but that's a seeded roll. I like a seeded roll.
On your Philly?
Yeah, I like a seeded roll. It gives a little something.
Are you going to talk about your dirty secret, though, about what you like to put on your cheesesteak?
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
This motherfucker over here put ketchup on his cheesesteak.
Okay, Here's my explanation for that. First, I can't have cheese
You
anymore.
can't have cheese.
So I
that's
order
true.
just a regular steak sandwich, and I order with the hot and sweet peppers, the mushrooms and onions, cause like a little veg. Just like I like my hot dogs, like a Dragon through the Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since I was a kid, I had a little ketchup on it because we're heathens from Jersey and we don't know anything. We're animals. And I eat it without it, and I feel like something's missing. Maybe it's because I like the Italian steak with the marinara.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm missing that.
The Italian cheesesteak with the marinara on it can be really freaking amazing.
And I do like anything with balsamic, and ketchup is like halfway there. I don't know. It's something. And I will not put ketchup on a hot dog because I don't want to get stabbed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even like it on a hot dog. It doesn't belong on a hot dog. But
I go back and forth on the ketchup on the hot dog. I mean, most of the time, I got to have mustard.
oh, yeah.
And if relish is available, absolutely relish. Although I like the dill relish better than the sweet relish. And it seems like everybody always has the sweet relish. But,
I will quote the
sometimes
bear.
beggars can't be choosers.
I will quote the bear and saying, what kind of asshole puts ketchup on a hot dog? Now, what kind of asshole puts ketchup on a on a
I thought that
Philly
was Dirty Harry that said that.
No, it's from the bear.
Well, he does.
Maybe
talk
maybe
about
they both
ketchup
did.
on-
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. But I will put ketchup on a cheesesteak because I am an animal, and I did it as a kid, and it just stuck with me. Sorry.
He's that kind of animal.
Yeah, I kind of am. We'd be remiss if I didn't mention Sonny's Famous Steaks. It's also on Market Street, farther down. They'll do whiz. They're a little more casual, whatever. And then Steve's Prince of Steaks, thick cut, 1/8-inch slabs of ribeye. That's pretty thick because normally all this is shaved beef. And then they drown it in whiz, though.
And apparently, one of the easiest ways that they would do that in the early days to get the shaved steak right was they would freeze the slab, shave it, and then give it to the vendors to.
You gotta freeze it, otherwise you're not gonna be able to cut it then.
Yeah, you'd have to have like a really good deli slicer, and and slice it thin enough that you'd be able to chop it up on the grill.
Yeah, they keep it cold.
But
shave it up.
They basically freeze the slab, shave it off, and then they get these bags of shaved beef that they toss on the grill.
I went to the store last month and I got the shaved beef because I was making myself steak sandwiches, and it just comes in a package because I'm not doing that myself. Are you out of your mind? Because when you do it yourself, it ends up being that thick cut 8 inch because you can't shave it that thin.
Nope.
I don't have a deli slicer because I'm not a deli. And I don't want one.
Although I will say it's much easier to get a deli slicer for your home now than it was even 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I need. Another weapon of kitchenry sitting on my counter to be used once every 2 weeks. And honestly, I don't need that much. I don't need another cheesesteak in my stomach.
Come on. You can use it for other things. You buy bulk boar's head and slice you some sandwich making material.
2 people live in this house. How much meat do you think we're going to consume for lunch? Come on.
I don't know.
No, when I go to the store, I buy like a pound of this or a pound of that, and that's about it. Hey, speaking of, here's an interesting fact for you.
Okay.
According to a 2009-2010 study by the CDC of 5,000 adults, 20 or older, on any given day, 49% of U.S. adults will eat at least one sandwich.
Yep.
49%. That's
it makes perfect sense to me. I mean, sandwiches, the whole reason of its origin was, a convenient way to consume things. The rule of sandwich, putting pieces of meat between 2 pieces of bread and then going, I can take this with me.
And further, I have the 25 most common sandwich fillings.
All right.
As listed by 5,627 U.S. respondents. Now, number 1 is a gimme, lettuce.
Yeah.
Everyone, like 1,426 people say lettuce. Now, if you're like my girlfriend Deb, she does not like lettuce on her stuff, and I think it's missing out. Her sandwiches don't have that cool, crisp crunch that lettuce provides. Also, we need to eat more green stuff. Any guesses on number 2?
If I had to guess,
It's a condiment.
It's a condiment. It's got to be mustard.
Mayo.
Really?
Wins out over mustard. 1339 to 1210. 1211 had tomatoes.
I mean, it makes sense, but I would have thought mustard would have slightly edged out mayo.
If you're like our friend Biggs, you won't like number 3 is tomatoes.
Tomato.
Yeah. Some people just have this aversion to tomatoes. I don't get it.
I didn't like them when I was a kid, but as your palate changes as you get older, I love them now.
I will eat a nice beefsteak tomato with salt and pepper and a little basil, and that's it.
Okay.
I don't even need anything on it. If you want to be fancy, you can throw a little drizzle of balsamic, and then you're halfway to caprese salad without the cheese. That'll kill me.
I do like the caprese salad, but I also because I like that buffalo mozzarella that's in it.
I kind of want to mention this. I saw Jimmy John's now has a caprese pesto.
Really?
With salami.
Nice.
It looks amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not a giant fan of Jimmy John's.
Yeah, me either.
But the sandwich looks good, dude. It looks really good. This takes into account burgers. So the number 5 is tomato catsup.
Okay, yeah.
Catsup. 6 ones of meat. What do you think?
Ham.
You got it.
Yeah, it makes sense because I was reading a completely different article saying what deli meat is the most popular on sandwiches in the United States. Ham. Ham is the number 1.
Ham over turkey because it's got a stronger flavor. Now let's talk about ham for a second. You go to the store, you go to the deli, you order a sandwich straight from the deli. What kind of ham you get?
If they've got it, smoked ham. Because some of the regular just cured ham, it's not as flavorful.
Like a regular tavern ham
Yeah.
or like a Black Forest ham.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I used to have the Black Forest ham just basically because I just like the idea of ham from the Black Forest.
Right.
But it was actually kind of tasty. And then when I got older, I discovered the smoked ham. Now,
yes.
when I lived in Houston, we had the benefit of an H-E-B,
okay,
the greatest grocery store on the planet. And I had Post Oak smoked ham.
Nice.
It smells like what I imagine heaven smells like. Post Oak is the greatest thing ever. Smoke everything on Post Oak. Your life will change. Now, you can get like the Pitcraft ham from like Boar's Head, and it's smoked. It's good. It's not the same. You can taste the big difference. Smell and taste the big difference in the wood that you use to smoke the ham with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So most people buy just like honey ham, boiled ham.
Yeah, they buy the prepackaged honey ham. The honey ham is I'm okay with. I really like the smoked ham better.
Yeah,
it's got more flavor.
I've lost my taste for sweet so much.
Yeah.
I'm more savory. I go to savory.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Especially as the older I get, it's like not as much sweet. It's like if I want sweet, I'll get dessert.
I'll eat a piece of fruit.
I don't necessarily want sweet on my food unless it's a part of a flavor combination.
Yeah, I do like. Again, talking about Texas. The Hobbit has one of my favorite sandwiches, the Dwalin, which is curry chicken with sliced almonds and grapes.
Okay.
It's fucking delicious. It's got a little bit of sweet with the curry chicken. It's not spicy, just flavorful.
I gotta find it again. Because when I worked at Serendipity 3, we had an open-faced sandwich that was smoked turkey, the melted cheese, cranberry, and then also had like apple slices on it.
Apple slices?
Yeah.
Really?
So you had that really tartness from the cranberry because it was real cranberries. And then that hint of sweet from the sliced apples.
What kind of apples? Green ones? Or red?
No, I think they were green. If I remember.
Then they were tart.
No, they were. I think they were
Granny Smith?
like probably where they were turning to the red because the red is definitely more sweet.
Yeah.
Because I know like my mom always went with the Granny Smith, the green apples. She wanted the really tart apples when she would make her apple pie.
Yeah. Disney makes their candied apples.
Yes.
Out of the Granny Smith apples.
Yep. Because
Tart
you
ones.
need that tart to balance out the sweet.
Because everything they have there is loaded with sugar.
Yes.
Yeah. But if I'm just eating an apple, just give me like a Honeycrisp or a Fuji or something like that.
And I've gotten to the point where like I don't even like the sweet apples. If I'm just eating an apple, I like the tartar apples. I will eat the tart apple on its own.
Worst apple.
Crab apple? I don't know.
Red Delicious.
Red Delicious.
Because they are red, but they are not delicious.
No,
they're cheap as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're usually kind of mushy by the time you get to them.
Turn brown real quick.
You turn brown really quick. They tend to be sweeter, so you don't you don't feel like eating the rest of it after you. At least for me, I don't feel like I want to eat the rest of the apple after I have a few bites. It's just too sweet.
I don't like the skin on it.
Yeah,
it's just gross. Oh, okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 7th ingredient is a cheese.
I would hope it's cheddar, but it's probably American.
Processed cheddar or American cheese.
Okay,
that's number 6. And then of course it's Jelly's partner, peanut butter.
Yep.
And then you get to, and this is weird, chicken or turkey loaf, like sliced chicken or turkey loaf.
Yep.
And then it's natural cheddar or American cheese, because I guess people eat the processed cheddar like crazy.
Yeah.
They just don't care. Maybe they just grew up with it and they just got used to it.
It's inexpensive, so it was easier to buy the pre-sliced American cheese.
Natural cheddar cheese, like the fancier cheddar cheeses, are delicious, but it's stronger. It's got a bite to it.
Mm-hmm.
You cut yourself off a thick slab and put some thick slab ham on there. You got a monster of a sandwich. One of Deb's favorite sandwiches she ever had, she got in a cafe in Stratford-on-Avon, and just monster of a sandwich. And it was this thick cut cheese, thick cut ham. Beautiful. You're not going to get that over here.
When I buy sliced cheese, if I'm buying pre-sliced to make sandwiches at home, I really take a moment and look for, because sometimes it's not always right next to the sandwich meats. Sometimes you actually have to go to the dairy aisle and find it. But I like the extra sharp cheddar for my sandwiches. Mm-hmm. And you can find it as a sliced.
Like the Vermont cheddar? Or
like it literally just says extra sharp cheddar on it.
Yeah, any cheese is sharp I like.
It's so much better than even just like the plain cheddar. I mean, it's way better than American, obviously. But
favorite cheese? Just in general, favorite cheese?
I'd probably say the sharp cheddar, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I prefer a Humboldt Fog.
Okay.
It's got a nice layer of ash in the middle. As I wistfully think about cheese I shouldn't really eat anymore. Kills me. Anyway, on down the list, it's from the natural cheddar, it's cooked ground beef patty.
That makes sense.
Raw onions. Not grilled. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Cheddar or American unspecified. Jelly, all flavors. Then a hot dog, which technically you could argue it's a sandwich. I'm not even getting into that. Mayonnaise, dill cucumber pickles. Not the bread and butter pickles. The dill cucumber pickles.
Well, I mean, dill has been the most popular of the pickles for centuries.
You ever go to Costco, get yourself a big old jar of the Bubby's sweet bread and butter pickles. They're delicious.
Bread and butter pickles are amazing.
As long as they're the natural ones, not the high fructose corn syrup crap.
When I was still at McDonald's, we had the Arch Deluxe, which
I remember that sandwich.
Had bread and butter pickles on it. And, I remember
Why did that go away? It was so good.
It didn't sell really well. It was. The problem is it's hard to market to adults, McDonald's. Because McDonald's, you market it towards kids who grew up and then go, oh, I still like that cheeseburger I had from a kid. I don't want to try something new that has a mix of flavors that are not going to appeal to anybody but adults.
Yeah.
Because it had a remoulade on it that was basically like mayo and deli mustard, but had some other things in it too. So it was a really good topping for the sandwich. And then just a smidgen of ketchup. Like McDonald's is famous for putting a shitload of ketchup on all their burgers. It's just it's ridiculous because like you look at we had these little dispensers, like the dispenser for ketchup was so much more than like the mustard. But this particular sandwich, you did that. You put a smidgen of ketchup on there. The bread and butter pickles, the lettuce. Oh, it was such a good sandwich.
I remember it was good. I'm throwing up. Swiss cheese, tuna salad, bologna. Remember eating bologna as a kid?
Mm-hmm.
And then unspecified cheese, and then low-calorie mayo, provolone, for whole fried egg, and pork bacon's at the bottom. I think people don't associate bacon with sandwiches unless they're thinking about BLTs or like bacon burgers.
Yeah, I mean, the club,
BLT.
Yeah. I mean, it's bacon is a fantastic topping for a lot of things, but I think most of the times when they do those surveys, people associate bacon with breakfast, so that it doesn't automatically pop into their head as a topping.
Well, they're missing out because one of my favorite sandwiches is technically a wrap, and it was the turkey bacon wrap. If you remember the Talaxian turkey wrap from Star Trek The Experience. Turkey, bacon, lettuce and tomatoes.
Smoked turkey, thick-cut bacon,
Yeah, it was delicious, dude. And I love a good turkey bacon avocado from Cafe Zupas. You know, with ciabatta bread.
Yeah.
It's delicious. And it's got the avocado on it, so I feel healthy.
The tuna salad, though, that's kind of interesting. I mean,
tuna salad's great.
I will say, as far as bologna, I still occasionally like a bologna sandwich, but it's not something that I will go out of my way to do. However, I've noticed some restaurants carry it, like they'll do like a smoked bologna or a grilled bologna sandwich, which definitely has more of an adult skew to it.
You're halfway to a pork roll.
Yeah, I know at that point, yeah.
Yeah, pork roll. Okay, you know what? This study also talked about the common sandwich breads.
Okay.
Number one is like a soft white roll.
Yep.
That's always number one. Number two, unfortunately, because it's Americans, white bread.
Yep.
Fucking Wonder Bread. I
Sliced
don't get
Wonder
it.
Bread.
And then wheat, and then whole wheat, and then a roll, hoagie, or submarine. Then you get the toasted white bread, and then everything else is just hodgepodge. What is it with people and white bread?
I don't know. I mean, if you're going to go for a white, go for something that's got some flavor to it and just upgrade yourself to sourdough. Sourdough is so much better. Typically, it's a little firmer, so it makes it nice to make a sandwich on. Although, as sourdough starts to get, I don't want to say old, because it doesn't go as bad as like a lot of other sandwich breads. It tends to get a little more crumbly.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you use it while it's still quote unquote fresh. But my go-tos have always been wheat and sourdough for if I'm making sandwiches at home, because the white bread it just seems too weird.
It falls apart.
Yeah.
I like a potato roll.
Yeah,
Potato rolls are always good. Or if I'm feeling froggy, I can make my own bread. But
yeah,
I'm not the best baker, you know.
Well, they have machines for that now.
I know, and you could buy it way cheaper in the store. My time is worth more than that.
Yeah, that's the weird thing now, because I used to like making bread. I got for a gift one year one of those little automatic bread bakers. Or literally all you have to do is drop your ingredients in there, push the button, it mixes it, bakes it.
Then you got a bread. Yeah.
Problem was, buying fresh baked bread at the store was a lot cheaper.
Oh, God, yeah. And faster.
Like, by a lot. Because, even if you had a lot of the ingredients necessary to make your own bread at home, the amount of flour that you need, the amount of yeast that you need, etc., it still costs more than buying a fresh baked or a day-old loaf of bread at the store.
I still believe wholeheartedly that it is a good skill to have, because I was in Hurricane Harvey. And we had to stay at a friend's house, and there was a run in the grocery store to the point where they were only letting a few people in at a time.
Right.
All the bread aisle taken. Everything was gone. They left the tortillas, which is weird. But
weird.
You know what? There was plenty of yeast and flour. And my friend John's like, "Well, what are we gonna do? We don't have any bread." I'm like, "I'll make you bread." So I bought flour. I bought yeast. I went back. Made bread.
Yeah.
I made bread on because we didn't have power. I made it on a barbecue.
Oh, wow.
Not screwing around. If I want bread, I can make my own bread. It's not rocket science, people. Learn to make your own bread. So it's been a minute. Let's give something away.
Yeah, let's give away a sandwich.
Let's give away a sandwich. Okay, I got a die in my hand. I'm going to roll the die on this lovely dice tray from Wyvern Warfare.
Yeah, we met them in Utah when we were there for the FanX.
Yeah, and they make amazing dice trays.
Dude, they make their stuff is gorgeous.
So here we go. Who's getting a sandwich? Ija Shockey, you're getting a sandwich.
She's getting a sandwich.
And do you know why she's getting a sandwich? Because she's a member of our Ko-fi. That's ko-fi.com/inbred. All you have to do is be a member at Tier 2.
Yeah.
And we're going to be giving away a sandwich every month. Now, our schedule was shit for the last couple weeks, so we might give another one away in the next episode. We'll see how it goes. Your chances of winning a sandwich are very, very good.
Yes.
So subscribe and support the show and keep us in sandwiches.
Sandwiches.
That's it. That's our show. I'm Barry.
I'm Jeff.
Stay hungry, everybody. No, I don't mean that in the way that like D. Snyder said it. I mean it in the way of literally stay hungry so you keep eating sandwiches because sandwiches are good for you. Some until you drown them in fucking Cheese Whiz. What is Cheese Whiz?
Processed American cheese.
God, it's gross. It's gross. Why can't the cheesesteak be healthy? Ugh.
I mean, it's healthier without the Cheese Whiz. It's not. I mean, it's just like anything grilled. It's got depends on what they grill it on. If they grill it with butter, or if they grill it with oil, or I mean, if they get a fatty enough sliced steak, you don't need anything. You just put all your ingredients in there and grill it together. And then the added benefit is that when you lift it up, to put it on the bun, you're probably draining a lot of that fat. So I would argue that if you prepare it properly, it's going to be a healthier sandwich than
all I know is that I eat some cheesesteaks,
mm-hmm.
and then I feel like my body needs a salad after. It just
How
needs
dare
some
you.
health. I know. Maybe a piece of fruit.
There you go.